it's more than just like academics or just your 4 years here or just your degree. It's the experience you have as a result of the people you meet. And the culture is just so strong. Like, you think of traditions like muster, bonfire memorials, silver taps. It's just incredible.
I love it. Howdy, Ags, and welcome back to On Air with Student Affairs, the podcast that showcases the ways you can create your Aggie experiences here at Texas A&M. I'm your host, Morgan Miles, and I am the loudest and the proudest member of the Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2026, AAA. Woo! And today we are talking with Divine Akinbobola, class of 2027 from Richmond, Texas. Divine is a neuroscience major with a minor in Chinese, and she is a member of the Corps of Cadets. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to get here to A&M?
I think the thing that really set me on track was my high school. I went to a charter school, International Leadership of Texas, and the founder of our school was actually an Aggie and also in the Corps. He was also in the Corps at a time. And kind of going through the experience of JROTC, having a mentor, and having a community that, one, helped me succeed academically, but also grow physically. Being in JROTC made me realize that I could do so much more. And in order to keep that going, I wanted to be in an ROTC program. But the issue was I already had a disability, so I couldn't really contract. So I had to find an ROTC anywhere or just a military-like organization that I could join while I was in college. And the Corps of Cadets came up, and it was the only one. They were the only ones who were willing to take me. And I was like, yeah, I'm signing up. And that was literally it for me. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So how have the friends you made in the Corps supported you through the challenges that you've gone through?
I think people in general are just a really important part of my life. I think of how far I've come, and I know for a fact that God really put certain people in my life at certain times to teach me things about myself that I didn't know, but I needed to know, or things about like where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And being in the Corps, at first, I kind of had the perspective of like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if I'm going to make it. What's next year going to look like? I knew I wanted to be there for 4 years. I'm on my second year now. And it was nice getting to see people see me beyond what I was at the moment. Just see my potential. Because I wasn't that good at push-ups yet. I wasn't that good at crunches, squats, all these things. I could do a little bit, but I think the thing that really got me through was, one, having the passion, and two, just sticking through it. But it was also having a community of people who saw me for more than what I was and what I could be. It's like sometimes they would push me to do an extra push-up or push me to run an extra lap or run a few feet. And that was really important for me because in the moment, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm tired, or my leg hurts, or my prosthesis is acting up or something like that. And just to have people who are that committed to watching you succeed is incredible. And then also having my buddies around me, because I was not the only one going through it. Yes, my experience was a little bit different, but we were all enduring the same thing. And having them support me was incredible because as a buddy class, they not only supported my weaknesses, but I could compensate sometimes for them. Whether that was like maybe telling them like, you got this, or you can do one more. And for me, that was like pushing my wheelchair through the grass so I can get to the location of the activity. So yeah, I'm really grateful for my outfit.
I love that. So what has this experience taught you about the Aggie spirit?
It's taught me so much. I'm struggling to find like a few words to explain it or to expand on that. I think one of the biggest things is probably passion, in the sense of like at football games, you see like so many people so excited and so many people so like connected, and it's just incredible to see like how we can connect with each other. What our experiences, what your experiences have to teach me, or what my experiences can teach you. And
Right.
the loyalty, the camaraderie, the esprit de corps. It's a term that is used a lot in military, and it's just like shared pride, shared dignity,
Right.
you know. And Aggies are so kind.
They are.
They're so kind. The number of times, like the other day, I had an incident with my wheelchair where my wheel popped off, and I'm just holding it in my hand. I'm like, well, there goes physics class. And somebody like offered to help me and pushed me all the way back to the bike hub and then pushed me back to the quad. And I guess it's just really cool. It gives me hope for humanity, especially when we look at things happening on a grander scale. To see somebody and be able to connect or have a 5 minute conversation with them as we're walking to class. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I think something like that makes A&M really special is that. And like how people here truly care for each other. And
Definitely.
I think obviously other colleges, like you can meet people that care for each other, but like whenever that's like instilled in like the core values of your school,
Yes.
like you really see it in everyone.
Yes.
And there's something different about it. And it's kind of hard to like explain or put into words, like you said. It's like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just, there's something so different about A&M. So I love that.
It's more than just like academics or just your 4 years here or just your degree. It's the experience you have as a result of the people you meet. And the culture is just so strong. Like you think of traditions like muster, bonfire memorials, silver taps. It's just incredible.
I love it. Are you involved on anything else in campus?
Yes, Aggie Adaptive Sports.
Ooh, tell me a little bit more about that.
So it's a recently new development. It was here in times past, but it kind of phased out because of COVID. And all it is like a sport, a recreational student organization that helps give opportunities to people who can't play sports the traditional way.
Right.
From my experiences, I've learned that sometimes my ability to perform may not always be within my jurisdiction. Sometimes it relies on my environment or the people around me. And it is cool, like having at a point lost the ability to walk, lost the ability to run, to be able to regain that in such a interesting and unique way.
Right.
So, and I just want to be able to share that experience with others. So,
yeah, I love that. So why do you think accessibility in sports and in general is just really important to have?
The obvious answer is that it is important, but in what way? There's a lot of tangents I could take this on.
Go for it.
Okay. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Let's say you had to get to the second floor of the MSC and there were no stairs. You just had to climb. Like maybe they put like a rock climbing wall or something. You just had to climb. Would you get to the second floor?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have stairs because not that many people know how to climb buildings or climb to the second floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we have stairs because we need to get people places and people need to get things done. If things don't get done, it creates a domino effect and then there's chaos all of a sudden, nothing is getting done. And then it's like, if we can have stairs, why can't we have ramps?
Yeah.
Like I said, my ability to perform is not always dependent on like my desire because I always want to show up. I always want to give it my best.
Right.
Yes, some days are different, some days are harder, but I want to be there. But now it's like you have this expectation of me, but you're not giving me the tools that I need to perform.
Right.
So you're literally setting me up for failure.
Yeah.
And I can get creative with that. I can get creative and find my way around it or ask somebody to help me with that. But it's like, if you want things to get better or if you want to see progress or if you want to see what I'm capable of, you need to give me the resources.
Right.
Otherwise, you're wasting my time and you're wasting your time.
Right.
And again, I can take this on another different tangent of like, people want to live. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing to be alive And I do think that to a degree, living is a choice, but then it also, again, ties into your environment. Like, what resources do you have? Do you have the right environment? Do you have the right culture? And like, it wasn't even too long ago when you couldn't, like, if you maybe even had an injury and you were stuck in a wheelchair, I'm not even talking like permanent disability, there would be no way for you to get from the first floor to where you needed to be.
Right.
Some buildings didn't have elevators. I'm just saying, not all of them always had elevators. And it's like, well, now you can't get to your job. And so
Right.
what happens? If you can't perform, you lose your job. If you lose your job, you can't pay your bills. If you can't pay your bills, it just creates this toxic cycle to where like your quality of life diminishes significantly. So, yeah.
That's so sad. That's so heartbreaking. And, you know, I think it's important, like you said, to have like resources on campus available to everyone so everybody can like utilize them and do things to the best of their ability. Because like you said, it's not fair that, you know, you have to do things without the resources that you need.
And like for me, I don't even use the term that it's not fair because life in general is
not fair. Yeah.
You're just dealt a pack of cards and it's like you don't get to pick, you just have to use them. But the term I would use is more of like it creates an extra roadblock where there shouldn't be. And not only that, it takes things from easy to difficult, from difficult to impossible.
Yeah.
And as Aggies, I believe that we shouldn't have things that are not possible to us.
Right.
You know, we're Aggies. We're the best at everything.
Yes. So personally, have you like discovered any resources here at A&M that have been helpful to you?
The people. There's so much I can say about the people. Aggies are just so cool. I'm so proud to call myself an Aggie.
Yeah.
But, okay, there are so many ways I can take this on. For one, in the phrase I always use is that experience is expensive. Knowledge is costly. If you can learn from somebody else, if you have the opportunity to, use that opportunity to do so. So for me, getting to meet new people, hear their stories, hear their experiences, and kind of tie that into like my perspective or get a better perspective of life and things and, you know, really adjust my mindset is just, it's a treasure. It's just really cool. And then, again, the people in the sense of like, I sometimes struggle. Like, the roads aren't always as smooth as they should be. I know because it cost me a wheel. And having, it cost me a wheel. I was confused for about like 2-3 minutes. And then I'm like, I wasn't sure what I expected. Yeah. And then the other day on my way to physics, again, I think it's a sign. But on my way to physics again, I kept hitting bumps and then my chair kept collapsing.
Yeah.
And then I had like 2 people, like one of them I knew and then just a completely random stranger I struck a conversation with. Like they walked me to class and I'm like, oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
So
that's really sweet. Do you have any plans after graduation? Do you know what you want to do after graduation?
I don't know if I even know what I want to do next. After graduation, let's see. Medical school, and then probably more advocacy, more public health. Career-wise, I'm hoping to go into like in medicine, probably neurology or psychology, somewhere along those lines. We'll see.
I love that. So what does it mean to you to belong at Texas A&M?
To really belong, you have to feel like you're wanted. And to feel like you're wanted, there has to be something tangible that probably points back to like, we want you here. And I think that's part of the reason that I stuck with the core. It wasn't because it wasn't hard. It was hard. First semester was rough, but it was always like my upperclassmen giving me time, giving me resources, motivating me, pushing me, telling me that I could be better and I should be better. And just truly understanding that they wanted me there. They didn't see me as like oh, this extra burden or this extra person. They gave me attention. They gave me everything that I needed. But most importantly, they showed they cared. And I think that's how I felt like I belonged. I felt like there was a place for me and there was something I could do. And I had the ability to do that.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any advice for students who are unsure of where they fit in on campus?
Kind of reminded of a Bible verse, and it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and he will direct your steps. I think for me, being here 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would not have imagined. Even 5 years ago when, I was in the hospital, and considering my circumstance, I didn't even know if I was going to get through that. And kind of just opening up my heart to the Lord to where, like, he helped me set a good foundation to where I stopped caring whether or not people were going to accept me or whether or not, I would find a place, because I knew I would eventually find a place.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be my school. It didn't have to be a particular location. I knew I would find a place. And I think having the Lord definitely gave me the confidence I needed to branch out. It gave me the confidence I needed to try new things like GROTC. I don't know where that came from, but it happened. And, even branch out even further. I'm a first gen college student, and I didn't really know what college was going to look like. And having the support of my family did play a role. And the other thing to consider is, like, if you want to feel like you belong, sometimes that's going to take you pushing, in the sense of, like, sometimes you're going to have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because you're not going to know whether you belong or not until you try.
Right.
And then the other thing to consider is that people are very limited in their experiences. You can only do so much with 18 years.
Yeah.
You can only have so much experience with 18 years. And depending on where you live, that can be limited, or depending on your background, that can also be limited. And I think the thing I found is that people are willing to work with you. You just have to give them something to work with.
Yeah.
You have to bring your voice into the space. And if it gets bounced back, then oh, that's not the place for me. And then you try again. And then also knowing that, like, I think it's another cool quote I heard. It's like, I don't want to be the first and only. I want to be the first of many, in the sense of, like, you're thinking beyond yourself, and you're like, in the next 50 years, what if somebody else who's in a similar position to mine comes here? They want to feel like they belong. I may not feel like I belong right now or right in the moment, but I can make their life better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I also think, kind of like piggyback off of that, like, understanding that, like, kind of like what you said, like, you also have to put yourself out there, and, like, just understanding that, like, rejection is also normal. Like, there's going to be orgs, there's going to be groups, there's going to be things that you're going to go out for. And, like, you may not get into those orgs. Like, I know it was just flow season, and, like, maybe you just got rejected from a flow or from a sorority, fraternity, anything like that. But it's so normal to experience rejection in life. And just because you're rejected from one org or one group, that doesn't mean that there's not something else on campus for you. And, like, maybe you didn't get into that org because there was something better for you out there. And so I think just understanding that and, like, take it with a grain of salt. I know it's easier said than done.
It is.
Take it with a grain of salt, and, just continue to put yourself out there, continue to try, because, like, you don't know until you try again.
True. And then there's so many other things to consider, like, do you know yourself well enough to even know what you want? Or are you just trying, like, everything and hoping something sticks? Like, if you can't put a mirror in front of you and be like, this is what I want, this is where I want to be in the next 20 years, you will struggle with committing to things, because it will get hard, and then you can't fall back on a why, because you don't even know why you started. Right. And then another thing is, like, the organizations we see, somebody started them. So if you feel like you're not, like, fitting in, you can create something that makes you fit in. And the other things to consider is like you're not the only person who feels like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in. There's so much going on. There's so much things that are going wrong. I don't feel like I want it or this or that. There's so many people you can connect with that have that same mindset or that same experience, and you can build a community out of that.
Right.
You know? And again, one more thing. It's like I said, trust in the Lord. In the sense that, like, for me, if core didn't work out, it wasn't the end of the world.
Right.
If A&M didn't work out, it wasn't the end of the world. I'm glad it did work out.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but it's like I have learned to detach my identity from my performance or just my environment.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can't control either.
Yeah.
But you can control how you see it.
Yeah.
So for me, my identity is not like in my ability to do a workout really well or in my grades or in all these things. And I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And it did take some time to get like used to that. But my identity is in the Lord because that is more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like so many things are happening in the world right now. We don't even know what tomorrow's gonna look like. We don't even know if there'll be a tomorrow.
Right.
So having a strong sense of identity, having a strong understanding of who you are, what you're doing, and where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that verse. Proverbs 3:5-6, everybody. But that is a great verse. And that was a verse that I feel like helped me a lot too. Like going into like my sophomore year of college, because I didn't have the best freshman year of college. I was involved my freshman year and I had to drop in org. And then it's like you go into sophomore year and you're like, okay, what now? Like everybody's involved at this point. Everybody's in a flow or sorority, something, until you're like, okay, I'm a sophomore. What am I supposed to do? But it's like just trusting that like God's got it and like it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And it did. And so I love that verse, and I think it's great to keep that like on your heart as you're going through college.
And then the other thing I would ask you, why did you feel like you had to do something? Like, was it like culture, or did you just want to make sure you had a full experience?
I feel like for me, probably a little bit of both. Like just wanting the full experience of like being in college and being involved. And then growing up, I was involved in a lot. Like there was not much time where I wasn't doing something. Like I was dancing full time, cheering full time. Like I was constantly putting my effort into something. And so I think whenever I got to college, like I still wanted to have that same experience of like just being involved in something. And like I feel like that's kind of like a way for me. I feel like I serve the Lord best by like doing things for other people.
Cool.
And so like that was kind of like my reason for like wanting to get involved and do something. So I'm a Theta. I'm involved in Theta here. And I love it.
So I would say that's more of like your personality, but I have seen some people who are like they feel the need to be involved in something, not because it's for them, but because they have this understanding that culture wants them to do something.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing something or you're not fulfilling a certain standard, like all of a sudden everything gets chaotic, even though in reality you're not doing that bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think that's where, again, knowing yourself comes into play, but also understanding that like everybody's going through a different season in life.
Right.
Like I asked my upperclassman for a random quote, and he was just like the moon, we have to go through seasons where we're empty in order to become full again. I don't know if that was the exact quote, but that's what I heard. And I just think it stuck with me because like sometimes we're up here, sometimes we're down here.
Right.
And we just got to roll with the punches. We just got to show up every day. I think for me, one of the biggest things that I always say to myself is, number one, all you have is all you need. Mm-hmm. And number two, every day show up. Some days, the most you can do is show up. Like, it takes extra effort to just show up. And other days, the least you can do is show up. And then the third thing is always make each day 1% better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. So what advice would you have for students who are afraid to advocate for themselves?
If you don't do it, nobody else will.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't speak up, if you don't say something, nobody else will, and then things don't get better, and 5 years down the road, you have regrets. And I personally have made the decision to live life with no regrets. When I reach the end of my life, I want to look back and sigh in relief, knowing that all the opportunities I had, I used.
Yeah.
And whichever opportunity or whatever I didn't use, I made up for that. I didn't sit in that space. So if maybe you've been struggling for so long, or you didn't do what you thought you were supposed to do, or you feel like it's too late to get started, it's too late to start an organization or join an organization or be a part of this wonderful community, what I would say to you is like, you have today. You have another day. You have another hour. You have another minute. And all this is just God's mercy extended to you, saying like, you have another chance. What are you going to do with it? You can either spend it like dreading yesterday, or dreading your situation or your circumstance, or being like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, and just sit there and do nothing. But you have life, you have breath, and you have a will. So you can get things done.
Yeah. That's a great answer. I love that. So, Divine, do you mind sharing with us a little bit about your story?
Okay. So, let's see. I had a really active childhood growing up. I was not born missing a leg. I'm not congenital. I had a medical complication in 2019 that led to me losing my leg, but also spending a really, really long time at the hospital. And I think during that whole circumstance, it kind of, the way I think of it as like a new birth experience, in the sense of like, I remember during my treatment, I was in the ICU, and it was a question of whether or not I would wake up the next day. And I remember just waking up the next day and being like, oh, I made it.
Yeah.
Like, I have never been more excited to wake up and just deal with life.
Yeah.
And for one, I try to live life with that same sense of gratitude and admiration of like, this is a gift.
Right.
This is a gift. And I think going through that experience, yes, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but like, my story would not be complete without it. Who I am today would not be complete without it. Because I definitely went through a deep sense of reflection of like, what is the meaning of life? Why is this so important? Why am I grieving the idea of losing it?
Yeah.
Or why is society the way it is today?
Yeah.
Why is there pain? Why is there suffering? Why is there all these things going on? And as a 12-year-old, I don't think that's a normal thought pattern for a 12-year-old. But at the same time, up until that point, life had all been about like me, myself, my experiences, the thing closest to me, or like just a really bubbled or protected view of the world. And I think that's what every parent tries to give their child. But I did not. It was kind of a eye opener in the sense of like, I was just initially shocked by like how bad things were.
Yeah.
Like in a world, so many wars, so many conflicts, so much in terms of poverty, malnutrition, and it was just like, this is what we're facing as a race. This is what we're facing as a human race. And I'm like, how did things get this far?
Yeah.
You know, just a bunch of reflection, a bunch of things. And I think it was just a time of where, like, up until that point, I just existed. Like, I just, like, done things with the normal flow, with the normal, like, you wake up, you eat, you do something, and then you sleep. You know, and going through that point, I was just like, okay, now what would it look like if I chose to make each day count? Not just existing, but, like, choosing to live.
Yeah.
Choosing to be alive, to be in the moment, to make each day count. And I think that's where my will kind of started from. It was just like, I have this second chance. I have to make it count for something. And I did take it a little bit too far in the sense of like, I felt like I had to prove that I deserved to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line, 2 years after that experience, I was such a perfectionist to the point where I I could not take the idea of messing up or the idea of failure just because I don't know, I just felt like if I couldn't meet a certain standard, then it meant I failed, which meant I blew my second chance, which meant God made a mistake. And I think it really took the mercy of the Lord to be like, life is a gift in the sense of like each day we get, it's more than just because we tried or getting up today. It was more than just because, oh, I have something to do today, so let me get up and face the day. It was more of like, you woke up, you don't even know how you woke up. You don't know, like, there's so many things in a day that can try to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually insane. Like, I think of the way, this is really weird. I think of the way people die in the sense of, like, how do people leave this world? And I'm just surprised by how there's so much in a day that can get rid of you.
Yeah.
Like, the water you drink, you can literally, like, choke on it or drown on it. The food you eat, you can... There's some really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Some really, really dark stuff. And just knowing that each day is a blessing. And I think the other biggest thing I learned from that whole experience was... It was kind of humbling. It was definitely humbling in the sense of, like, I saw where my capacity reached, and it was not anywhere close to where it needed to be to get me out of that situation. And that was when I actually turned to the Lord.
Oh, wow.
It was, again, as a 12-year-old, you're not thinking about these things, but
Right.
life kind of just threw it at my face, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should be thinking about these things. But again, as a child, your parents try to protect you, try to care for you. And I kind of saw my parents doing their best, but I saw that, like, I saw them limited for the first time, you know? And when I think of that experience, I just think of, like, my mom crying and my dad crying, and I'm like, oh, I'm in a really deep place now. Because, like, as a child, every time I needed something, it was always mom and dad.
Yeah.
It was always like, Mom, I need something, Dad, I need something. And they always found a way to provide. Parents are really cool, especially if you have the right ones. But whenever I got my diagnosis, I just saw them limited for the first time and them, like, helpless in a sense. Like, they were turning to the Lord. They were crying. They were, like, doing everything they could, asking questions, looking for other opinions, and just trying to encourage me and trying to give me hope. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, this is beyond me. And this is beyond them. So I turned to the next best thing, the Lord. And I remember being in my hospital room for the first time, and I'm like, nobody was there. And I kind of just said, like, it wasn't my first prayer, but it was a different type of prayer. It was like, Lord, if you don't get me out of here, I don't have any other options.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even said words that day. It was more of like, I said, Lord, then I cried, and then I said amen, and I felt peace.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I just felt like God reached out his loving arms and gave me a big hug. And it was really weird because after that moment, it wasn't like, I was bothered, I was concerned, I was exhausted, I was tired, but I had peace.
Yeah.
And I stopped trying to worry or stopped trying to control the things that I couldn't control. And the things I could control, like my attitude throughout the whole experience, I controlled. So as much as possible, I tried to stay positive. I tried to stay hopeful. I tried to stay happy. And I was not being delusional because every day I was hit with the challenge of, like, 50-50.
Yeah.
50% chance you live, 50% chance you don't. And it's why I think people are so ignorant when they're like, oh, you're just being delusional, or you're just being too happy, or you're too positive. You don't know how bad things are. I'm like, yes, I do. But if I'm going to get through this, I need hope.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that's really missing today. People lose hope and then they give up.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad to see because I'm like, first of all, things could be way, way worse.
Yeah.
And second of all, you have everything you need. You have everything you need to keep going. And like I said, my story would not be complete without that whole experience. There's so many things that taught me about life, about myself. I think the biggest thing was my relationship with God started from that point, and the second thing was I learned to be grateful for everything. I learned to see everything as an opportunity. Nothing should be taken for granted. And sometimes I forget, or sometimes I get caught in the emotions of things and the cycles of things, but it's like at the end of the day, everything we have is an opportunity. Being an Aggie is an opportunity. Getting to go to school, to further your education. Because if you look at other places around the world, like other people around the world, other countries, some of them are at war. Some of them have been at war. Some of them, they don't have resources as much as we would like them to have. And those things are out of their control. And it's just so insane to think about. The way I thought about it, even during my treatment, like, despite being in such a interesting situation to where, like, I didn't even know if the next day was going to be a thing. In my mind, I just kept thinking, somebody has to be in a worse position than I am. There's somebody somewhere in the world who would literally kill to be in my one shoe.
Yeah.
Somebody who would, like, literally do anything to be in my position just because theirs is so much worse. And when I think of that, I'm humbled.
Yeah.
I am humbled, I am grateful, but at the same time, it is an extra burden on me to actually do something about it. And I think it's, if you can, you don't know what you can do until you try. And you don't know what you can do until you actually look at your life and realize that you have so much more.
Yeah.
In fact, so much more than you need. Because the Bible says the Lord will provide I forgot which verse, but it was like, Lord will supply all your needs according to his riches and glory. And I'll be honest with you, you not only have all you need, you have so much more than you need.
Yeah.
And the ball is in your court. It's your choice to decide what you do with it. And just going based off of that, I think the other transition that went on in my mind, I could go on and on about this, but I'll just say two more things. The other transition or shift that went on in my mind was like, I was like, man, there's so much suffering in the world. What can I do about it?
Yeah.
So there was this little, like, arrangement I made in my mind, or maybe it was a deal I struck with God. I don't even know. But it was like, even I started with my nurses and doctors. I just started to think of things from, like, I mean, I know I'm in pain, but I tried not to focus on myself because it's easy to drown in your situation if you're just constantly, like, looking at it.
Right.
If you constantly look at a mountain, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger on it until it gets too difficult to climb. And so I just shifted my focus from myself to everybody else. So I looked at my doctor or my nurse one day and I went, I wonder how their day was. I wonder what they went through today. Because if there's anything I've learned, people are really good at covering up pain. They are really good at smiling when they're hurting on the inside. And I just thought of my doctor. I'm like, I wonder how many bad news he had to tell today. Like, I wonder how bad his day was, or how many kids he has to care for who are in the same condition or who is just terminal.
Yeah.
And I wonder what that conversation with the parents must have been like. Because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only patient he's seen today. So what is his state like right now? And just thinking of that, I just went, okay, here's what I'm going to do. The 5 minutes or the 10 minutes they get with me, I'm going to make sure it's a joyful experience. So I would, like, say something funny or try to make them laugh, and they would. And I remember, like, one time, a nurse I had never met before and probably never seen again because it was the ICU. she was like, oh my gosh, I asked for a blessing and God sent you to me, or I asked for a blessing and you've made my day so much more joyful. I've had a hard week. And I went, so it does work. And I kind of I've carried that on ever since to where it's like, if somebody only gets 5 minutes with me, I have to make sure that it's good. I think of the quote of that, for some people, your life is going to be the only Bible they ever read. So make sure you live a good life. And for me, it's like if I meet somebody, it's because I was meant to meet them.
Right.
So I have to make my time with them count. If something happens and they never see me again, if something happens and I'm not here tomorrow, what will be the last thing I'm remembered for? Was it for being aggressive, for being mean, for making somebody feel down, or for making somebody upset, or for adding to somebody else's pain? Or is it for being uplifting, hopeful, joyful? And the world needs a lot of that. It's such a dark, dark world, and anything helps.
Yeah.
Any amount of smiling, any amount of joy, any amount of laughter helps. So, yeah. I went on a tangent there. But.
No, you're so good. Wow. That is really inspiring. Thank you so much for being open and sharing your experience, and your story is going to touch so many people.
I hope so.
I know it. I know it's going to touch so many people. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us about your time at A&M and your story. And I think it's such an inspirational reminder to students that, like, everybody has a place here on campus.
Yes.
Regardless of your circumstances or what's happening on your life.
Or that you can make a place for yourself on campus.
That too. For more information on how to get involved through the Division of Student Affairs, go to text.ag/createyourAggieExperience. This podcast will be available on YouTube and all other podcast platforms and services. Thanks, and gig 'em.
Gig 'em.